Talk now to global affairs analyst Calvin Dack. Al Wayne is a distinguished diplomat and resident School of International Service, America University in Maryland. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the news at 10. Let's begin with Calvin Dack. It's quite historic what we've witnessed today. The first time in U.S. history that a former president will be arraigned. Already there's a debate of whether or not the criminal charges against Trump should have been made public or not. But how significant would you say this development is for the rule of law in America, Calvin?
Well, I think today was an extremely significant day in our history because, as you said, this has never happened. This was a truly unprecedented event. It seems that the presidency and candidacy of former President Trump has been full of unprecedented events. I do think that a lot of has been said, particularly from Republicans in the House of Representatives, about that this prosecution is somehow threatening the rule of law in this country and the justice system. I think some of former President Trump's lawyers have said similar things. I think that's not the case. I think our justice system is strong enough to handle the prosecution of a private citizen who just happens to be the former president. So I think what the world will see, I hope, is that as this legal process plays out, that it will be fair, that it will allow President Trump to mount a defense, and that we will come to a fair resolution. And that's how a justice system should work. But like I said, this was just day one. I think it's very important to recognize that I think the next hearing the judge set is in December. So this is not going to be resolved anytime soon. But what we do have to wait for, which I think will be very interesting, is what former President Trump has to say tonight when he returns to Mar-a-Lago in Florida and gets to share his side of the story about today's events.
Let me bring LA into this conversation. There are some 34 felony criminal charges here, which Mr. Trump has pleaded not guilty to. And one of them would also involve prosecutors alleging in court documents that the former president did sought to undermine the integrity of the 2016 election. Just how significant, are these charges for a former U.S. president?
Well, I think that, as Calvin just said, the most important thing is that this process is going forward. And from the point of view of those who have not been critical, it is showing that nobody's above the law. But as was said, what's important now is that it be clear that there's fair treatment going forward. Everybody in our system is innocent until they are proven guilty of the charges. And so this is really testing that system. It's been dissected and it's going to be redissected many times as we over the days and weeks ahead. And we still have several other investigations that are ongoing. The one about the classified documents that were found in Florida, the one about January 6th itself, both in a federal investigation and the case in Georgia. So I think it's fairly sure that this is going to keep the news focused on Mr. Trump, which many believe that he sees as an advantage for him as he tries to build a campaign to run again for president.
There's a political implication to this, Earl, saying that Mr. Trump is a presidential hopeful for the 2024 U.S. election. How much impact do you think this particular case will have on this election?
Well, I think in the very short term, Trump has been able to use it to mobilize his base of support. And he has a feeling somewhat of solidarity among many hardcore Republicans who think this was a politically motivated case. I think that advantage may fade as we move forward and more is known about the charges. But it really does, in part, depend on as the charges become known, because up until today, we didn't even know how many charges there are, and I haven't yet seen the details of what those charges amount to. And then I think, again, it will depend on if the evolution of these other three investigations that are going on. And if they also come forward with some serious charges and evidence, I think that will impact the view of Americans more broadly. There's no question, however, that Donald Trump has strong support from a core group of Republican voters.
Carvin, let me get your thoughts on this. How much impact do you think this arraignment will have on Trump's political future?
Well, I think in the short term, Donald Trump is going to continue to use this to his advantage, going to continue to fundraise. And with the, drawing out of the legal process, we're going to see him full speed ahead on his campaign, calling himself the martyr, calling himself the victim. And he gets to do that really unchallenged because it's not as if, a trial starting next week. He gets to craft the narrative and at least until December. And, of course, that depends on the other legal issues he may have in the other cases. But I do think that at some point, the Republican Party, not necessarily the 30 or 40% who are going to support former President Trump regardless, but I think the rest of the Republican Party at some point, they're going to have to realize that either they're going to put their support with Trump or they're going to try to win. Republicans already have lost 7 of the last 8 popular vote, for the presidency. And they really want to take the White House back. And I think that a lot of Republicans, even those that support former President Trump, are realizing that an indicted president, possibly in more than one jurisdiction, is not exactly the best candidate to really win. But I don't think we're going to see that transformation inside the party anytime soon.
Now we know that these
I
proceedings.
do want to add that we've already seen at least one candidate coming out on the Republican side making that argument.
Indeed.
Pretty straightforward. A former governor arguing that the Republican Party really needs to recorrect and announcing that he's going to formally put forward his candidacy so the Republican Party can move beyond Donald Trump.
All eyes on this development, gentlemen. Thank you so much for talking to us. Calvin Dark, Global Affairs Analyst. L. Wayne, Distinguished Diplomat in Residence, School of International Service, American University, Maryland. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.